Yeah, so I had a question. I just kind of curious about both sides. I just curious how you feel about habitual offender laws in terms of, say, like life without parole or near life without parole sentences for multiple felonies. Do you think they in general are good, or do you think they go too far? I just kind of curious what both sides think as far as what they think the ideals would be for people who are repeat offenders.
Yeah, I think generally, I think in a lot of, a lot of this varies depending on who the DA is, what state we're talking about. I do think in general we are probably too lenient on crime, especially my hometown, San Francisco, way too lenient on crime. You have people. I don't think there should ever be a case where someone's been arrested legitimately for crimes over 100 times, and then they're still committing like these. I mean, these are real cases that I've seen multiple times. In Houston, for example, where I live, people being let out on multiple felony bonds. Like, this is insane. So I do think we should be stricter on crime. If someone commits, I don't know, let's say, you have the street. You used to have the 3 strikes rule in California. They don't really do it like that anymore exactly, but I support sort of habitual offender laws. Yeah.
I was gonna say it depends. Like I'm not big on like 3 strikes and you're out. I think anything that takes away, like judges are supposed to use judgment. It's kind of in the name. Like anything that yanks away judgment completely from judges, I'm not really in favor of. Obviously, like when you get to the hundreds of times, like they need to put you away for a significant amount of time. But anything like 3 strikes, where like the 3rd felony is nowhere near as serious as the first 2, I just think is stupid, and it's like too rigid. It's one of the reasons why I hate the bail reform in New York, because it just says you won't give bail for any of these crimes. It doesn't allow the judges to judge previous criminal history or even bail jumping or any of these other factors. So yeah, like if we have faith in our judiciary, like the legislators shouldn't be commandeering them by forcing like all these like one-size-fits-all solutions on them.
I guess I'll throw my bit in here. Usually it seems like the behavior people engage in if they're already incarcerated can be pretty demonstrative of the behavior they might engage in when they get out. So typically if someone's really making a ruckus while they're incarcerated, it's pretty, you could probably tell they're going to be doing crime when they get out. They're going to be, back in the prison system pretty quick. I'm not a big fan of the idea of like completely writing someone's life off. Like, oh, you've made too many mistakes, we're just done with you. We're just going to lock you in a cell. You're going to live behind bars, behind fences and walls for the rest of your life because you're too much of a danger to society, and you will rot and die behind these bars, and you will never see sunlight. I don't like that idea. I don't know what the solution to that is. I don't know what the alternative, better solution is, but it doesn't sound like that is the right one.
Yeah, I think I do know what the alternative solution is, and I think that it starts to become tempting to support these like barbaric laws that like after X number of things, you will never be free again. That starts to become tempting when you think that the only solution to criminality in your society is to increase the harshness of the criminal justice system. And I would say, Moynihan report was brought up earlier, which is essentially an attempt to blame black poverty and crime on culture, as I think plenty of white ethnic groups had higher crime rates when they had higher poverty rates, and the culture didn't change that much. I don't think culture has that much to do with it. I know, when you bring up other countries, people always say, oh, no, it's because the culture is homogenous, has nothing to do with it. They have, if you look at a comparatively much more civilized country like Norway, they have the maximum sentence in Norway is 21 years for anything. Well, actually, not quite true. For war crimes and genocide, it's 30 years. But for anything short of war crimes and genocide, maximum sentence is 21 years. Anders Breivik is going to get out eventually, unless they change the laws for him, which they were talking about. And they have a much lower crime rate than us. And why do they have such a lower crime rate than us, despite the fact that, they have such less harsh sentencing laws? Because it's a much more equal society, because poverty is not a state of nature. The distribution of resources within a society is a political choice. Strong welfare states, strong unions, these things give you a more equal society, so you can have both. You can, it's like the little girl in the meme, porque no dos, right? You can have both. You can have much more liberal criminal justice system, and you can also have a lower crime rate.
They were very equal in the Viking days. Very violent, by the way.
Again, see, he said poverty is not a state of nature. I didn't make it up. Humans are naturally poor when we don't have anything, when we didn't build civilization. We were broke. When we're hunter-gatherers, we were broke. That's what I mean by that.
All right, well, if so, that's not a sense of natural that has anything to do
With nature?
with-
As
has
we were in
anything
nature
that has
before-
anything to do with how to structure a complex society
That's fine.
that
Stop
already
saying it's not
exists
natural, though.
and how to
Just
distribute
stop saying
resources
it's not a state of nature, though.
within
That's
the
it.
poverty that exists in a complex society
That's
with
not what I
lots to
said.
go around has nothing to do with state of nature.
That's
If
not what
you were
I
actually
said.
making a banal, irrelevant point, my apologies for interpreting you as saying something that would be relevant to the
That's not what I
conversation.
said.
Just to respond to your last point, given that so much of this is centered around demographics and how much African Americans commit so much more crime, is it fair to use Norway as an example when their population of African Americans is near zero?
Well, it depends
They have,
why.
they have Somalis in Oslo. I can tell you that.
It depends why you think that African Americans commit more crime, and this is a big thing that we've been arguing about today, right? Yeah, so if you think it's culture, then sure, it would be an unfair comparison. If you have, I think, a vastly more rational view and think that it's economics, then it's completely irrelevant what the racial demographics are of Norway. Everybody is going to commit less crime in a more economically equal society.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive post-games on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.